Welcome to this edition of In the Now with Jim Swilley. We are in the middle of a conversation with our friend Calvin Witcher, and we're coming to you live from Metron. Metron, once again, would you please welcome Calvin? Tell him how much we appreciate. And I'm going to start with this assumption today. Any of you that are watching these videos, I have to believe you are already enlightened enough that we don't have to explain a lot of things to you. I believe that you already sort of know where we're coming from on this. So pick up where we left off on the last one. And if this doesn't make sense to you, then go back and watch the previous one of these to give it some context.
Well, we were talking about the second coming of Christ or Christ consciousness. Some people would end up saying that this new age or eon that we're in is really about bringing out all of who you are, which is interesting because the reason that you're even not having most people are not having a lot of attacks anymore is because when they're going through their own level of transformation. So it's hard to villainize someone when you yourself are being pulled into a different space and time. So many of us don't really get a lot of criticism anymore. I don't know how many times through my inbox on Facebook I got one yesterday again from someone. I have no idea who these people are. Wanted me to talk about, what did they talk about? The retrograde. We were talking about the retrograde and astrology, some things like that. And I'm like, I thought you were like a Christian. I mean, and they're following me the whole 9 yards. Now, again, they're not going to their church.
I don't know what retrograde is. What you talking about, Willis?
Oh, yes, Venus is in retrograde. It's a very, very interesting space.
They know.
And time, so some people know. So pretty much what happens when we're in retrograde, it feels like things are going backwards. The planets feel like things are standing still. It's like going down the road, and you're going fast, and this other car slows down, and at this one moment you kind of meet and intersect, and then you zoom forward. So a lot of times in retrogrades, communication issues happen, technology situations occur. You feel like you're going back in time, and so it's in Virgo right now, and which is one of its native houses. So there's a lot of intense energy. We just had Lionsgate portal opening, which is extremely intense energy. We're going into the solstice. That's another intense energy. So actually we have a lot of things planetarily speaking that are shifting us in a lot of different ways that you kind of don't have a choice but to change and
well, it would have to. If you if there's enough gravitational pull from the moon to make the tides, then of course celestial movement is got to affect us. I don't think this is just psychological. Like I watched the eclipse last week, and I wasn't even in the path of totality. But the next morning, I felt unusually energized. It was like I had a power boost. And some people would say, "Well, you're just imagining that." And I think, no, I feel like watching that, something shifted with me. I felt very connected to what was happening 93 million miles away. And so that's very interesting. See, when you said retrograde, I didn't have an immediate recognition of that, so I'm glad you explained that. That's good. I always want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, it's so funny because even things like that are so in the scriptures. Even who was it? I think it was Elijah that said the sun stands still. We can talk about that with astrology as well. Solstice, sun, and still means sun stand still. There's so many references I can go into regarding.
Well, even the fact that we celebrate Easter,
Estor,
right, which was
goddess
really an ancient
of fertility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we have we're finishing each other's sentences. That's why we have Easter eggs and bunny rabbits, which are prolific, because long before it was Christianized, it was pagan, which isn't necessarily a negative word. Pagan. It was a pagan ritual where they celebrated the earth coming to life again, which is exactly. Jesus is not mad at that. His resurrection happened at exactly the time of fertility, and the earth did come forth. It's like when Jeremiah says, "Oh, earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord." Mm-hmm. Jesus was Paul called it the first fruits of that. Yeah. So what's happening is all of these, there are people who think we're divided, and all these different camps, like there's the Christians over here and the this over here. And what's happening is we're all coming to a focal point where you realize, knowledge is knowledge, and that you understand when Jesus said those that are not against us are for us is a much deeper concept. I find that now I can meet somebody who I don't really hear people use the word atheist that much. This kind of got a weird energy on it, but I hear people who, you can tell that they're not really believers in the sense that we've known believers. But I'll say something about Jesus or whatever, and they totally get it. And they'll respond to me like, oh, you mean like so-and-so? Like and sometimes I find they have better get it factor than people who are having to, navigate through, is it okay to believe this? Is it okay to see this? I don't have time to go into it now, and these people have all heard it, but I've had little touchstones over the last, 2 decades of encounters I would have with people that at the time I would think, is this okay for me to even be having this with this person? Because I was taught you should be rebuking them. But instead I was connecting with them on such a deep level. Right. And now I'm to a place where I look back and I go, oh, that was a first fruits of things to come.
Absolutely.
And I find that, I can go hear a neurologist talk, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's not necessarily coming from a spiritual aspect, but everything he says is confirming things that I taught about being in the now 30 years ago, and it's a missing piece for me. I'm like, wow, the spirit, the soul, the body, it's all linking up. Knowledge is everywhere. And what this is the optimist in me, and I sense it in you as well. Things are getting better. I know they don't sometimes look like they are, but they really are. That new Jerusalem is coming down prepared as a bride out of heaven every day. It's not a future event.
Oh, absolutely.
The day star is arising in our heart every day. We are being born again every day. We are being filled with the Spirit every day. And whatever your terminology, if you call that paradigm shift, epiphany, whatever, it is happening. And just like retrograde, that's a good word. That's a good missing piece for me. I like that. Go ahead.
No, I was actually just thinking, the point of ascension is actually to get to a place of agnosticism or atheism, actually to get to a place of unknowing.
I like the word agnostic. Agnostic just means I don't know everything.
I don't know everything.
We need more agnostics who will come down off their religious high horse.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I used to know everything. When I was 14,
oh, yeah.
I knew everything. It was beautiful. You should have seen it. I don't know where I lost that information. I am considerably more agnostic now than I was at the time. And yet I love Jesus, and I love spirit, and I love life now more than ever. Go ahead.
So I was saying I actually love being around atheists and agnostic more than religious
Many
or church
times
people.
I do too.
Mostly because, especially for what I do, immediately when someone says prophet, I have several filters I have to flow and work through. And so I understand that immediately going in. I have judgment, I have condemnation, I have the dispensationalists that say that doesn't exist, yada, yada, I'm a heretic, whatever. And then I have the other people that says, okay, I'm waiting to see, prove it. What does that mean? And this is fine, I welcome all of those things. And so with atheists or agnostic, there's no filter. There's like, okay, sure, you call it whatever. What does that mean? I actually can flow a lot better when I don't have to sit here and go through the filter. It's like going through congestion. Or I guess you guys live in Atlanta here, so you know what about traffic. So that's how it is energetically. It's like, okay, if I have to sift through all of this, it probably might take me 30 minutes to actually get to where I can work.
There had to have been a reason why Jesus chose the disciples that he chose.
Absolutely.
Because he didn't choose one theologian. He didn't choose one person out of the temple. He chose people that knew about fishing, that knew about tax collecting.
Teenagers.
Yeah, he just chose people that he didn't have to deprogram.
Absolutely.
And he gave them power to do whatever because they were pure and they just received it.
Absolutely. And so it's funny you say deprogramming because I tend to work I think the prophetic, God speaking anyway, works a lot better when we don't have to get to a place of deprogramming your filter. And is it possible? Sure, it's okay. I think that's why we have pastors and teachers, things like that. Sometimes on a prophetic level, I just tend to go straight to the point, so I've learned to be a little more disciplined over the years. I used to be a lot more renegade in prophecy. I've learned over the years with maturity just to, not because every time you know something doesn't mean you speak it. And sometimes I'm also at a different level now. I'm like, listen, when I step into a place, it's more of an activating energy. I'm coming here to just bear witness to the whole experience, even myself. And speaking is sometimes just irrelevant. It's like, I don't need to prophesy. It's the experience is the prophecy. The experience is the coming forth. And there's no need for me to sit here and say, thus saith Spirit. I can do that. That's without question. I could do it for 10 minutes. I could do it for 3 hours as well. It's just not a show. I think some people confuse it in that sense. I can do it. Sure, I can do tarots if you want to. And that's fine. Charge you $97 to do that. But Yeah, I think that's what it is sometimes. People want more the reality of spirit, and people hunger for it. People want it. And
I'll
so,
tell you one thing
yeah,
is for sure: real recognizes real.
yeah,
And for people that are pretentious about their beliefs and even insecure about them.
Right.
Because here's my thing is like if what you believe is the truth, you shouldn't be insecure about people
Right.
that challenge your comfort zone.
Right.
Because if it's the truth, then it's the truth. The truth will stand on its own. You don't have to come out swinging. You could even say, I don't necessarily agree with you on this point or that point, but for mostly we're good. So let's focus on that. How many have we said? How many Christian denominations have we said? Over 40,000, I believe.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Which just the very fact that there are thousands of Christian denominations that were basically birthed out of one group saying another group is wrong
Right.
shows you there's something intrinsically wrong with what devolved into what we know as
Right.
Christianity.
And even calling yourself out on your own BS. I call it BS. I know we're recording, so I'm going to be really calm today.
This you could say pretty much anything.
Yeah, I've been known to say a couple of choice words. So, but even with myself, if you watch any of my broadcasts, there are plenty of times I'll say, listen, I'm going to give you the congruence of my own teaching, and then I'm going to contradict my own self what I said 5 minutes ago, and I understand that I'm doing that. I can call BS on my own stuff because I'm not held to it. It's fine. And when you don't have an expectation with you, like, okay, it is what it is. Was wrong, was off, didn't make sense now. It will make sense in 5 minutes. Give it time. And so it's fine. When you get to a place that you don't have to prove it, it's like, we're good. It's fine. I view it like this with God and spirit. I think God's a big boy, a big girl, a big it, that she doesn't need me to defend it. I don't need to sit here and battle with it. I don't have to actually know it, and it's okay. I'm just available. I'm here. What little I know, I will say it. Don't have me change the oil in your car. Not my specialty. This area, I know this, and I'm okay with that. This is the one thing that I do, and I do it well. I don't play basketball either. I know, you might assume that, but you don't want me on your team. It's going to be a horrible experience. So, get into a place that there's nothing to prove other than, if you want to prove anything to yourself, compete with yourself and win. But everybody else, it's like, it's okay.
And that's what I find more and more. The more enlightened people become, the less defensive they become. Namaste stops being a word and it really becomes a lifestyle. Like whatever is holy in you, I respect it. It was pounded into me in Bible college, never refer to Holy Spirit or God as it. And that's because patriarchal, the Bible was written by men to men in a patriarchal world. Women, it wasn't even considered that women could have deity or contain deity. So when you understand, I'm never going to fully abandon referring to God as he, and yet I don't have any issue with referring to God as she or even as it, because it's a bigger concept even than gender. And when I think a lot of the reasons that gender issues have been so challenged in recent years is because people are having to even learn how to think outside the box concerning what is male and female. What are male and female roles? Because a lot of the archaic ideas we have really came from patriarchal limited belief systems that came from men trying to control their environment. There's no getting around that. And when you understand that, the stronger, like I find men who are very strong in their masculinity are not intimidated by strong female energy, because the real in them recognizes the real in somewhere else. As a matter of fact, I don't think you fully know God until you recognize energy in other, in people who are in different incarnations than you.
Absolutely. And so even with me, like male, female, it really matters not. My grandmother, she had 11 children. And I don't know how many grandchildren. So when we were all together, she would just start cycling through names, Randy, Brian, Michael, blah, blah, blah. And then she'd say, you know who I'm talking about. That's just how I view God. Like he, she, Jehovah, Elohim, Krishna, Buddha, who cares? It knows what I'm talking about. It knows it by name. I'm calling God. Whatever.
Why else would, when Moses said, I need a handle to take to the Egyptians, the voice says to him, you just tell him I am seen. Right. And so thank God that we, through our understanding, phrases like Jehovah Jireh, those kind of things, helped us understand. We saw one facet of the diamond. Right. but God was the entire diamond mine, and we were, our theology was, look how pretty this little stone is, and there were, an eternal source of diamonds. That's all.
Yep.
That's good right there. That'll
That's
preach,
good.
right?
That's good.
All right. Let's take a break right there. Good stuff. Everybody, tell Calvin how much we appreciate him being here today. I love it. Thank you for being with us this edition of In the Now with Jim Swilley.